Hi, my name is Vanessa Gonzalez, and today I will be giving my toxicant report over strychnine. I learned within this class that we're exposed to a lot more chemicals than we may think. On average, a person is exposed to more than 700,000 toxic chemicals a day. This can be from a wide range of sources, which can include the products we use, such as perfumes, cleaning products, even cosmetic products or body soaps. Within the US, we currently know the composition and effects of more than 85,000 chemicals that we come to contact with in our daily life from a wide variety of sources, one of which is strychnine. Here's a brief overview of what I will be going through in my presentation. So we'll start off with an introduction, then we'll go into the history of my toxicant, the sources from which it can be found and its uses, its toxicity, its effects and treatments, the mode of action, exposure and prevention, and then we'll conclude our presentation with some summary facts. Introduction. So, strychnine is found in an indole poisonous alkaloid. It is belonging to the strychnos genus. It does come white in a crystalline powder, and it is commonly found in the Southeast Asian plant Strychnos nux vomica. It can be found in a wide range of forms. It can include pill forms, or it's used for a wide variety of uses such as pesticides or street drugs, which I will go into later. It is entered through the body through inhalation, mixed in a solution, or injected directly into the vein, and this toxicant is detrimental to our body because it targets the central nervous system. Okay, the history of strychnine. So strychnine was first discovered in 1818 by two French chemists. One was named Joseph Caventou and the other was Pierre Joseph Pelletier. And they found strychnine in the St. Ignatius bean within the plant that I told you guys about. In 1954, strychnine was first synthesized by the chemist Woodward, and they were able to discover the exact stereochemistry as observed in this picture by doing X-ray crystallography, and they further confirmed it using chemical methods. Okay, now I will talk about the first uses for strychnine. So initially people would take strychnine for medical uses, so they thought that it would keep them from fainting, stimulate appetite, improve digestion, or help restore body functions. However, they quickly learned that consumption of this toxicant caused terrible side effects. They included body stiffness, twitching, muscle spasms, convulsion, anxiety, and death. Over time, strychnine has also shown to damage the liver and the kidney, just because that is how it's absorbed and excreted typically. That's how the body gets rid of it. So natives within Southeast Asia learned about the poisonous nature of this toxicant, and they used it to their benefit by putting some on the ends of their arrows to poison their victims. As I said before, strychnine comes in many sources and is used for many reasons. So, as I stated before, the St. Ignatius bean is where it was first found in the plant Strychnos nux vomica. The plant is native to southern Asia. This includes areas such as India, the East Indies, and Australia. At first, it did have a medical use. It was used as a restorative drug and to treat many human ailments. Over time, they stopped doing that because of the effects that it would produce, and then people decided to start using it as a performance enhancer in 1904. So runners were specifically given this drug as an injection mid-race, and it was thought to increase their lung compliance, allowing them to expand and stretch more so they can breathe more and breathe better while they were running. However, this did have detrimental effects when it was given in great amounts based on the person's body weight and such things like that. It did have negative effects on the runner. Another use of strychnine throughout history was for homicidal and suicidal use. So the government eventually said in 1949 that methylene blue was required to be added to the preparation of strychnine to reduce the amount of suicides and homicides that did occur, and just to make the toxicant stand out more. But a lot of homicidal and suicidal cases were found throughout history. I read an article called An Unusual Case of Strychnine Poisoning by Sebastian Pratt, and it stated several cases where strychnine was used to poison others. One of the most notable cases that I read about was the serial killer Dr. Thomas Neal Cream, who actually killed prostitutes within the 19th century by using this toxicant, and he was able to get the name Jack the Ripper because he killed so many people with this toxicant. And there was another case where 4,000 Indians were killed in Fort Jones using strychnine. So we do not use strychnine for those ways anymore. We have only used strychnine for pesticides, and we also use them in street drugs, which is not allowed, but it still occurs. So in 1947, strychnine's use was restricted by law, so nobody can use it as a performance enhancer or anything like that anymore, or medically. So they decided to use strychnine to manage gophers, moles, predatory animals, birds, and rats. Signs would have to be put up around the holes where strychnine was laid so that people can be notified that it's dangerous and to stay away from it. It is tightly regulated though, so not anyone can use it. It's mainly in governments who are approved. Strychnine is also found in street drugs. To reduce cost, many drug makers lace their drugs with this banned substance just to make it cheaper, but this can cause terrible side effects to people if they don't know that strychnine's in it. And this commonly occurs in street drugs such as LSD, heroin, and cocaine. Toxicity. So the lethal dose value was found in rats, and it was approximately 15 milligrams over kilograms. And the lethal dose 50 of strychnine in test rats ranged between 1 to 2 milligrams over kilograms. So the lethal dose 50 is the amount needed to kill 50 of the test subjects. So over here, this is actually from our textbook, which shows us that strychnine, and it shows us the lethal doses too. So the lower the number is, the more poisonous and deadly this would be. So 2 is a significantly low number compared to the other numbers. Strychnine can be detected in an autopsy by observing the deceased bile, stomach contents, and tissues such as the liver and kidneys, because there'll be residents left there in those organs. With an early diagnosis and treatment of strychnine poisoning, a poisoned patient may be able to survive, but you'd have to seek treatment early. On that note, I'll be talking about some of the treatments. So I also read a case called The Intimate History of Strychnine by John Buckingham, which provided detailed experiences from a patient who was poisoned but did survive. So the patient stated he felt his muscles continuously tightening and felt as he was being suffocated. His spine began to arch at a point which is known as opisthostonus, and that's just where the spine curves and it makes it harder for a person to breathe. This patient survived, but if left untreated, that is a deadly sign. So mild and long-term symptoms can include soreness, agitation, rigid arms and legs, and dark urine. Higher dose levels can lead to convulsions, respiratory failure, muscle exhaustion, and death. Long-term effects, if a person does happen to survive strychnine poisoning, would include brain death and maybe kidney failure. So diagnoses and treatments that are currently available. So doctors usually diagnose patients with strychnine poisoning by looking at the presence of spasms in their muscles, dark urine, and the digestive tract with strychnine markers. In a journal written by Hock Fong Tong, he states that detection of strychnine in the urine was done using liquid chromatography with diode array detection and mass spectrometry. There is no current antidote to strychnine poisoning. However, supportive care such as cooling measures to reduce body temperature and use of intravenous diazepam would be used to control the convulsions and maybe stop the effects of strychnine poisoning. And typically once they get those under control, they'll start decontaminating the body by taking out everything, all the toxins and chemicals, so that the person is able to recover and get past the poisoning. Strychnine mode of action. So strychnine is rapidly absorbed from the gastrointestinal tract and mucosal membranes. It's a competitive antagonist that inhibits the glycine receptor in the central nervous system. It's able to do so through non-covalent binding with the formation of hydrogen and ionic bonds. And the glycine receptor originally's main function is to inhibit actions of the spinal cord interneurons using ligand-gated chloride ion channels. So it kind of works as like an off switch, but when strychnine binds and keeps this receptor from binding, the switch is constantly on, and that's why you see those muscle spasms. Convulsions occur because of the blocking of the glycan's inhibitory effects. Continued spasms make the back arch, the neck stiffen, and the jaw clench. And as convulsions worsen, eventually the person will die due to asphyxia. Exposure and prevention. So, strychnine has many names, street names: Nux voxima, poison fruit, Quaker buttons, and exposure can happen due to food and water, inhalation of strychnine released in air, and street drugs. Current preventions of strychnine, so the way you can keep yourself from being exposed is when it's released outdoors, it's best that you move away from it, stay on the other side of the wind so you don't catch any of it. And to reduce exposure, when you are exposed, you can remove your clothes, wash yourself off, and dispose of clothes, and then you can avoid further consumption and seek medical care to try and improve your chances at surviving strychnine poisoning. In conclusion, strychnine poisoning has now become rarer due to its restricted use in addition of a blue coloring, the methylene blue. Strychnine's mode of action is characterized by blocking the glycine receptor and creating painful convulsions until a person experiences asphyxia. The chemical is now used occasionally as a rodenticide and can be found laced in street drugs. People should be cautious and aware of this chemical given its toxic and poisonous nature. Thank you, and here are my references.